What's up, Indiana? Welcome to Indy Sports Nation right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. May is upon us. The Indy Ignite are in the playoffs, and the Pacers have advanced to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So much to discuss. Thanks for joining. Saddle up. Indy Sports Nation starts right now. Good afternoon and welcome in, everyone. If you're watching live or on the replay, cannot thank you enough. Welcome to another episode of Indy Sports Nation right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Big Mike. We'll be hanging out for the next hour or so, talking all things that's been going on in our great state. Hope you've all had an amazing week. Hope it's been as good as mine. You know what? Scratch that. I hope yours has been better. It's been a pretty fun week here too. Cannot lie. We got a lot to discuss, as we always do. As I've mentioned, it is the month of May. Not much better in the city of Indianapolis than the month of May. Touch on that. The Indy Ignite are playoff bound in their inaugural season. Congrats, ladies. That's freaking amazing. We'll talk that. We'll talk a little Colts draft as well. And a big part of the show today is going to be dedicated to the Indiana Pacers. Got to recap the series win over Milwaukee. And we'll have a special guest here to give us the Cleveland perspective, if you will. So looking forward to having our guest on this here probably about 40-ish minutes or so. So looking forward to that, but you know the drill. Before we get into all the good stuff, we got to give love to our amazing sponsors. Planet Jerky. Jerky is on a whole other planet. Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Amazing sponsors. Please go check them out at your earliest convenience and give them some love. It is much appreciated. So let's get the bills paid. We'll dive into some content on the other side. Thank you once again for making time out of your busy day to join me here. Big Mike. Indy Sports Nation right on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We'll be right back.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clinking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you once again for tuning in. And I would be remiss not to say, hey, go follow us on YouTube. Smash those subscribe and like buttons. And when you're subscribing to IE Sports Radio, comment Indy Sports Nation is a big help out to your boy here. Much appreciated. Also, if you'd be so kind on the X platform, formerly known as Twitter, give the show page a follow at IndySports_IESR. You can also follow me personally. I am at The Chill Mike. Love interacting with all of y'all on there. I'm also fairly new on TikTok here. I've actually went live once, which was just probably stupid. Or maybe I'm too old for it, whatever. But anyway, at chill.mike7. This nice little extension of this show went on, talked about a little bit of Pacer stuff the other night. A lot of fun. So anyway, hit me up in the comments here if you're watching live. Always love that. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to hit me up on those socials. Again, always good to interact. For you watching live, you know the drill. Let's keep it sports, keep it PG. Got a few coming in already. Real quick, Taryn checking in. Good afternoon, Mike. Have an awesome show. Always appreciate you, brother. Taryn does great work for us. He does so much. His shows are great. He does so much behind the scenes too. Dude is the man. Ralph from the Inzer Report. Have a great show. Appreciate you as always. Anthony Richardson has some shiny new toy lining up with him. He does. We'll chat about that here in a bit. Now the issue is, can he get it to him? We'll have that discussion. But hey, as I mentioned in the intro, it is the month of May. And everybody who's in Indiana, especially in Indianapolis, we all know how awesome the month of May is here. So we're going to start some IndyCar because it is the month of May. So we don't really have a choice. So race this weekend at Barber Motorsports Park down south in Alabama. Practice is actually going on right now. Looks pretty good so far. I've seen Rosenquist go into the rocks already. I'm interested to see how this shakes out because the season has been really unique. We've seen Alex Palou's been doing his thing, 2 firsts and a second. Looks like he's the man to beat again. This track has been very good to the Chevy guys. So I'm curious as to if this is the week that Penske, for example, is able to rebound and get back in the winner's circle. I'm seeing some early favorites, and one of the early favorites already is Scott McLaughlin, which would not shock me in the slightest. But we'll see how this shakes out, right? I mean, we got practicing now. They have another practice session tomorrow before qualifications, and then race Sunday at 1:30. And I bring this up because, again, it's the month of May, right? So the calendar is a little weird this year, but now it starts getting really packed for IndyCar. IndyCar kind of starts slow with their timing. You'll get a race, get a week or 2 off, another race, get a week or 2 off, something along that line. And now you got the month of May, right? So here we go. We got Barber this weekend, and they're coming right back to the beautiful city of Indianapolis next week. Well, they'll be here the rest of the month. So we get the Sonzio Grand Prix next Saturday, which yours truly will be in attendance, followed by qualifications. You got pole day. And of course, leads up to Carb Day, which leads up to the greatest spectacle in racing, which is the Indy 500. So a lot happening, in IndyCar, and a lot happening in the city. And I'd be digressed to and we'll touch on it here shortly, and then later in the show. Why is it so great? I mean, if you're not a race fan, what's the big deal? Well, again, and it's working out for us again this year. You got Pacers advancing to the Eastern Conference semifinals. So you got that buzz. Obviously, next weekend's will be just hopping with the race, and then games 3 and 4 here. And oh yeah, by the way, you got the Indiana Fever starting preseason this weekend. So you've got all these things that's kind of happening in a basketball state and in a state that's known, for the greatest spectacle in racing. It's why, again, it's why it's the best place to be in the month of May. But I digress a little bit, kind of back to the track. It feels like to me this could be a weekend that Penske maybe gets it back on track. I'm not saying I'm rooting for it or anything like that. Hopefully they fix their seatbelt problem. That seems to be an issue for them as of late for whatever reason. But hey, we'll see how the qualifications go. Obviously, in these road courses, this is a 2.3 mile track, I believe, with about 17 turns. So we'll see. Obviously, the way you qualify can make or break you. Otherwise, you got to go to pit strategy, and that can be a roll of the dice. So I'm hoping for a little more excitement on this one, just for the fact this track's been good to the Chevys as in recent years. I think the other thing too to look out for, through 3 races this season, there's literally only been 1 caution. Now, granted, fans want more cautions, not because we want people to get hurt, obviously, but it just puts a wrinkle in the race. Like, okay, now who comes out of pit road, who doesn't, who stays out, things like that. It really just makes it a little bit more exciting. And so far, haven't seen a whole lot of that. I still thought Long Beach was good. But I don't know, maybe hopefully we'll see a little bit more action this weekend in that regard. And again, with the track that's been so good to Chevys in the past, maybe, we'll see what happens. But moving on, as I mentioned, the month of May, I would be remiss not to just follow up with what I just mentioned and touch on the Indiana Fever. obviously their training camp's well underway. And in fact, the first preseason game's tomorrow. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. against the Mystics. I believe you can catch on NBA TV if you have that. We'll have a rant about that later too, probably. But anyway, that being said, media day was this week. I'm getting a chance to talk to head coach Stephanie White, and of course, Aaliyah, Caitlin, Sophie, Lexi, all the acquisitions that's come to this team. We'll see. I mean, I don't get wrapped up in preseason, but I love preseason at the same time. And I guess what I mean by that is simply, I like it because this is where you're getting on a court. You're kind of seeing what you have from a chemistry standpoint. You've seen things in practice, obviously. But, when you get a bunch of doesn't matter who you are, new players, if talent could be through the roof or whatnot, they still got to gel and they still got to come together, have chemistry on the court or on the field, or it doesn't matter what sport it is. So I anticipate, and it wouldn't, I should say, no, if I say I'd anticipate, that's probably not the right way to put it. I would say I wouldn't shock me if maybe they're a little cold at first, figuring things out. They're already going to be in a better spot, to start this season. And that's not because, they open up with the Sky, and you would think that's one they'll get. But if you remember last year, the gauntlet they got put through, they played like 12 games, I think, before the Aces had played 5. I think the Liberty only played like 6 or 7. And they were just capitalizing on this Caitlin Clark thing. And of course, they put the fever against all the top teams in the league. And so they start off like that 1-9 start, which was, ridiculous. But it's in the past. It is what it is. I can't say I was surprised by it. I mean, they're trying to get eyes on the product. She brings eyes to the product. So you want to get her on there as much as humanly possible. Not quite so tedious this time around. So we'll see how they shake out. But you're reading articles, man. I'm telling you, this could be. Anything can happen. I realize, but this could be a chip year. I mean, this city hasn't had a chip in a while. Think about it. I mean, it's been, here we are in 2025. We're talking, 06, 07 Colts, right? So we're approaching 20 years since we've seen, something legit like that. So, don't put the cart before the horse here or anything like that. But this team looks, we'll see how it translates on the court. But this is a lot to be excited about. Goes without saying. So, speaking of success, right? We gotta give some love. We got to give some love. How about the Indy Ignite? How about it? The inaugural season and heading to the playoffs. It's been a bumpy road, though, as of late. I mentioned this last week. They've been losing a lot more than they've been winning lately. But they had a couple games this weekend, Orlando and San Diego, and they basically just had to win one of them. And they did. They lost the first one 3-1 in Orlando, or 2 Orlando. That's always – those matches have been so weird this year. They've been like 4-setters, and like one team wins, and then the other team takes the next or one team wins the first set, and the other team takes the next 3. It's just kind of been odd. But bounced back nicely to beat San Diego 3-1 to actually clinch it. They did play Atlanta last night. Atlanta's red hot. They actually may end up being the top seed in the playoffs. We'll see how these last few matches shake out here. Currently, right now, it's Omaha, who are the defending champs, who are going to Major League Volleyball next year. So as of right now, as of today, the Ignite would face Omaha, which Indy got them once, but Omaha's gotten them more than that. So that would be a tough battle. And again, I mean, yeah, they've done this last half of the season, even though it's been a little bit of a struggle. But they've done this without Memra Mena, who's been their best player. So I do love that. They've held their own. Again, they've lost some games or matches rather. And last night was evidence of that, but they played them much better, I felt like. Hung in there. To me, they had chances to probably win that and didn't. Taryn checking in. Atlanta's won 13 straight matches. Yeah, if they beat Omaha, they will be the number 1 seed. So, so we could very well see the rematch. But 13 straight is damn impressive. So they're striding at the right time. You wonder, I mean, if you're Indy Ignite fan, you try to maybe spin that narrative a bit, right? Well, man, it's a long streak. It's got to end at some point. Yeah, true. And again, Indy's not been winning a lot as of late. You think maybe at some point they got to turn that around. But hey, here's the deal: they're in the playoffs. Yeah, we all know what that means. In the playoffs, playoffs are a whole new season. Whole new season. We're finding this out now in the NBA, right? So it's congratulations to Indy Ignite. I mean, that's, to me, anytime you can come in your inaugural season, no matter what sport it is, and go to the playoffs, I don't think you can't be mad at that. Can't be mad at that. These women have battled through some injuries, and it's been next woman up in a lot of cases for this Indy Ignite team. So So I'm thrilled. I couldn't be happier. We will, like I said, we'll just see how it rolls. Got to build somewhere. Taryn checking back in. They could play spoiler. You're right. Vibe was number 1 seed last year at the playoffs, and they wound up losing to Grand Rapids in the semis. He's absolutely right. So, again, to the point, playoffs. It's basically you're 0-0 at that point come playoff time. So, with that said, we'll get our first break in here. I want to talk some Colts draft on the other side before we get into the Pacers. Obviously, this is going to be a heavy Pacers show. A lot's happened this week. It's been national news, which us folks in Indiana, we don't get a lot of national coverage because they don't really care. But talk a little Colts draft on the other side, and get some more Pacers talk after that. So once again, thank you so much for joining. We'll be right back here on Indy Sports Nation on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all those sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, welcome back. Thank you again for tuning in, and keep those comments coming in. And just a friendly reminder again to YouTube, subscribe to IE Sports Radio on YouTube, comment Indy Sports Nation. Appreciate you so much. Also, while you're doing that, go to iesportsradio.com and get yourself some swag. Check out all the other great hosts on the platform. We got you covered coast to coast. All right, so let's dive in here. Got to talk a little Colts, right? I mean, there was something about a draft this past week. So, and I think most of it has been pretty positive here about the draft. there's a few people that are complaining. You're always going to have that. So I look at it, and here's the thing too. I don't really like putting grades on it. I know a lot of people do, and that's cool. I whatever, it doesn't bother me or anything. But we don't really know how it's going to work out until we get OTAs, camp, and they're just getting on the field. Just because it looks all shiny on paper, we don't know how it's truly going to work yet. But that being said, we talked about last week, Tyler Warren, first pick. That was he fell to him at 14. That was a no-brainer. It's a need. The Colts desperately needed a good tight end. So now, round 2 pick, I like this, and it pains me as someone who you all know who've followed me and who've watched the show or been on my show. Ohio State is not my cup of tea. I am not a fan, but they put out great players, and obviously they put out a ton in the draft this year. And so I'm gonna try to do this. I gotta get better at pronouncing his name because I just do. But everybody's gonna call him JTT, defensive end Ohio State. So it's JT Tuimoloau. I think, or no, I butchered that pretty. I think it's never mind. I'm not even gonna try it anymore. I'm gonna start laughing too hard. I'll do better next time, I promise. But yeah, JTT is round 2. I think it's a good get. Dude was solid, that stout Ohio State defense. The round 3 pick of Justin Wally, the cornerback out of Minnesota, was a head scratcher to a lot of people here locally. He did his workouts in a cast on his arm, and that was a big. Ballard kind of raved about that. I know they liked his speed and what have you. It felt like they might have been able to get him in a later round, but I think it just went with it. We'll see. At the end of the day, I'm not mad about it like some people are. I mean, the secondary of this Colts organization feels like it's always been a weak link. They've always feel like they've really always struggled there. They've had some decent successes with linebackers here, and at times a decent front four. But in the defensive backfield, feels like it's been a struggle, which they've obviously addressed in free agency and then a little bit here in the draft as well. So, but a little surprise there. I like the Jalen Travis pick. The dude's a monster O-tackle. 6'8", almost 340 pounds. Dude's just a beast. So I like that. They definitely need some O-line help. I like the Giddens pick at running back out of Kansas State. Dude's fast. A lot of come out of the backfield. A lot of yards per carry was high. I love that. We needed a compliment to Jonathan Taylor. So I'm a big fan of that pick. Round 6 is where it gets interesting for a lot of Colts fans. You all knew they're going to pick a quarterback. Y'all knew it. Y'all didn't think it'd be Robbie Leonard, but you knew they were going to pick a quarterback. Look, a lot of people were upset. Curtis Warwick was there, the quarterback from Indiana. Obviously, we all know what Indiana did this year, had a great year. And he was there, and he passed him up. Look, this is not me saying that Ronnie Leonard's a better quarterback than Curtis Warwick. I'm not going there. It's not me hating on IU or anything like that. I just felt like the kind of offense that Steichen wants to run here, it involves mobile quarterbacks. And obviously with Anthony, you Daniel Jones, coming in, it kind of fits, I guess. And look, at the end of the day, I think the most you're going to see him play is the preseason anyway. He'll be holding the clipboard most of the season, is my guess. Unless, then again, who knows? We'll see if any first and second string quarterbacks can complete a 10-yard pass. Anyway, moving on. So we got defensive tackle Tim Smith out of Bama. Okay, some depth there. Cool. Good run stopping guy. Can't have enough of those. Hunter Wohler was a safety. He'll be transitioned to a linebacker. I think, again, 7th round picks, whatever. You get some good ones there. Ballard's been good at that. He'll find some nice gems later rounds. I'm a little surprised with this. Let me backtrack. I think probably maybe a surprise or the surprise is they didn't address linebacker earlier. I mean, EJ Speed's gone. They do need a decent coverage guy. They've got some guys on the squad who've maybe played about 3 snaps total. So I've got a few comments coming in real quick. Oh, my boy Zach from the Blue Stable, who's been on the show numerous times, chiming in. Appreciate you joining, Zach. It does sound like that. I think he can play on the outside, and it looks we'll see how that shakes out, obviously. And for those of you who don't know, Zach is not a Duke fan. For those of you who forgot, Ronnie Leonard was at Duke before he transferred to Notre Dame, and then obviously Daniel Jones. So, yeah, Zach, I'm sorry, I'm not a big, not a big Duke fan either. Yeah, I mean, you know what? That's fair. That's fair with the college choices, I suppose. He does, though. He decent arm, athletic, and intelligent, hardworking kid. I don't mind it. I really, really don't. Like I said, it's not going to be. He's not going to be on the field much unless just the craziest of things happens. But look, just to kind of wrap up this Colts portion here, when it comes to the draft, again, I said earlier, I don't like giving grades because you just don't know how it's going to translate. For one, for two, with this team, it's still about the quarterback, as it is, well, pretty much every football team, right? But I mean, I like the team that they're putting together around, Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whoever it is. There's some good talent on this team, but at the end of the day, your quarterback's got to be able to do what he needs to do. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be another mid-type year. And some of these guys are not getting any younger. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's still got a few years to go. He's got some years to go, but, running backs' careers, we know how that goes. Quentin Nelson, Defoe. So you've got, again, some talented dudes, but, that window for those guys is getting smaller. So you hope that they get this quarterback, thing figured out. I mean, we saw Anthony Richardson interview last week, and I tell you, I mean, you can tell he's not skipping the gym. I mean, dude's jacked. Said he's working on his footwork. We'll see. I'm sure he is, but at the end of the day, can we be completing those, 10-yard passes, for example, not throwing behind or overthrowing or whatever? Because you've got enough weapons. We've finally got enough receivers now. So, we'll see. But overall, again, the draft, the players that they've drafted, I mean, they all fit needs, and hopefully will contribute to some good things coming down the road here. With that, I want to get in before we go to our last break and bring in our guest. Kind of want to just chat about the Pacers a little bit, kind of recap what's taking place before we get into the preview. So sorry about that. So Pacers defeat Milwaukee, advance to the Eastern Conference semifinals, win the series 4-1. I honestly thought this could have possibly. I mean, I said Pacers in 6 coming in, and just because the way Giannis was playing, he's been playing on another level, and I thought just with that alone, and the way Gary Trent Jr. hits threes against the Pacers, which he did it again, by the way, shoots like 54% from 3 against the Pacers. It's nuts. But I thought with that kind of thing that they'd probably get a few games. And of course, you could argue they should have had the overtime, the game 5, right? And that's fair. I could argue game 3, Pacers were up 10 at halftime, and then put together just a god-awful third quarter. And then you had rotations that Carlisle was doing. He just kind of got away, I felt, from what they were doing in games 1 and 2. And so basically almost like punted the game away. I mean, obviously at this point, they win the next 2, so it's water on the bridge. It's kind of who cares. But really, games 1 and 2, I felt, and I know my buddy Dan, who hosts our show, the Wisconsin Whistle Show here on IU Sports Radio, will probably disagree. I felt, I know he felt that Milwaukee played bad defensively. I don't think they had an answer. I don't think there was anything they could do. I mean, you look at those first 2 games especially. I mean, the high ball screen, they had no answer for it whatsoever. Pacers just were able to do it, and there was nothing Milwaukee could do. I mean, they could hit some shots, keep themselves in it, sure. And they did. In game 2, they did that. Game 1, they started to kind of at the end, but it was a little too late. I just don't think, and look, I know some of the haters will be like, oh, Dame, you didn't have Dame. And yeah, I know Dame's Dame. I get it. They've been sitting for a month. I don't think it would have mattered for the end result. Maybe do they get an extra game? Maybe. And I'd be fine with that. I would concede that. But I think from top to bottom, yes, Milwaukee had the best player, arguably the best player in the world on their squad. But Pacers were a deeper team, in my opinion. That's why I thought 6. But, with that Game 3 debacle, this thing could have been a sweep, which would have been crazy to me. But anyway, they get the win. And, of course, we all know what happened. Games 1 through 4. Obviously, Game 5. And I want to put this question out to everybody, especially the Indiana folks. We saw what happened in overtime, Miles. We all thought that game was over. Everybody thought that game was over. In fact, the record was 0 and like a million in that situation. And the Pacers were the first team to ever win in that situation, being down, 7 points with 40 seconds to go. And then Tyrese just did Tyrese. And, of course, Milwaukee assisted with the Gary Trent Jr. turnover, which, yikes. But something has never happened. And so what I want to pose to my Indiana people is, was that a top 5 sports moment in Indiana professional? Now, professional, I'm not talking college, professional sports history. Top 5. I'm not saying top 1 or 2 because I think we all know what those are. I mean, nothing's really going to top the Marlon Jackson intercepting Tom Brady to go to win the FC Championship and go on to win the Super Bowl. And you're not going to top winning the Super Bowl, so I understand that. Obviously, the Reggie Miller and the Garden comes to mind. Right, we all know that one. We also know the Game 6 against the Bulls where Reggie hits that 3 with basically a broken foot. Does it rate kind of there, like 5, maybe? I don't know. I think it. I think it probably does. I mean, if you want to put it 6, okay, fine, whatever. But that was just a moment. Casey chimed in here. Appreciate you tuning in, Casey. Yeah, Casey agrees. I think you got to put. I think it is too. I do. It's just one of those things that you'll never forget where you were as a fan when you see something like that happen. I mean, they hit that 3 to get it within 4, and I was like, I'm watching the buddy of mine. I'm like, they're just going to tease us, but if we leave, we're going to regret it, and we would have obviously stuck around. So, but what a moment! What a way to advance! And this team is one thing about this Pacers team this year is they have fought to the end. Yeah, Casey was actually there, and yeah, I'm sure it was, dude. Best favorite sporting event he's ever attended. I'm absolutely sure it was. Look, man, it's just I have no words. I had no words, to be quite honest. So, but the news obviously that came out of that, which was been covered nationally, is John Halliburton, and this will be the last I talk of it because it's old news. We all know what happened there. He went on the court. Should have never been allowed on the court, but went on the court with the towel with the Suns, face on it, and starts taunting Giannis. And some of that emotion came from the fact of the stuff with the Athletic and saying that Tyrese is the most overrated player in the league, and was said by other players. Rumor was a lot of those players were on the Bucks, and also rumor was Giannis was one who said that. And then of course he goes to Milwaukee to support his son, and then Milwaukee fans are all over him, which you gotta expect that. That's just comes to the territory. So yeah, emotions got the best of him. And he obviously, you should have done that. You can't do that. That is what it is. So what's come about that is we got, he will not be attending games in the foreseeable future. This was decided by the Pacers. I think the Pacers are actually handling this pretty good. Initially, I kind of thought, oh, wait a minute, man. I don't know. Do the Pacers, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, upset anybody. But then again, I don't think you want the league coming in and doing something crazy either. So Pacers get out in front of it. And, hey, he's not going to be allowed he's not coming to games in the foreseeable future. I take that as probably meaning not this series. And if the Pacers were to pull off the upset, I'm going to guess probably not the next series. Now, if they were to pull off the run of all runs and just basically shock the basketball world and make the finals, maybe. That may change things, maybe. But even if he does, he won't be a courtside. I can't imagine it being a suite or something. But the punishment, quote unquote punishment comes out. And some Pacers fans are upset about it. They think it's too much. I got to remind you, you've got people on national media. I'm not going to name names, but y'all know who I'm talking about, saying he should be banned for life. That may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. because he obviously was of no threat. Now, if he came out there throwing hands, a different story. He was just got caught up in the moment, was just proud of his son. Again, can't do it. But, I think, to me, it's probably fine. I mean, he won't be around for this series. And I said if there's future series, probably won't see him to the finals. And if you do, he won't be courtside. He'll probably up in a suite somewhere is my guess. So, but hey, what's important? Pacers are moving on. That's the story is with the crazy Tyrese overtime performance. And I give a shout out to TJ McConnell too, because he's had a kind of a tough year, but he balled out that night and gave the Pacers a chance to actually pull that overtime win off. So with that said, we'll get our last break in, and on the other side, we're going to talk Pacers Cavs. Man, this has been a series that a lot of people have been hoping to see, and we're about to see it. So we will we'll get our last break in, and we'll dive into it on the other side. So thanks for tuning in to your boy here, Big Mike, Indy Sports Nation, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all the sports. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? If you're looking for the best coverage of all Northern California sports, including 49ers, Giants, Warriors, then check out the NorCal Sports Report with yours truly, Andre Fernandez, every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We have guests every single week talking 49ers, Giants, Warriors, Sharks, San Jose Earthquakes, and a whole lot more, plus 3C2A. You do not want to miss this show. So tune in Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time to the NorCal Sports Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Cleveland and Columbus sports fans, I've got the show for you. I'm Jen B, host of the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You want football? I've got the Browns, the Buckeyes, the Eagles, the Purple Raiders, and more for you. You want basketball? I've got the Cavs and the Charge for you. You want hockey? I've got the Blue Jackets and the Monsters for you. You want football, aka soccer? I've got the Crew and the Crunch for you. You want volleyball? I'm going to unleash the fury for you. You want more Cleveland and Columbus sports? I've got them all for you, from the majors to the minors to the college rinks. Catch me, Jen B, every week on the Show of the Land right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Final segment of the show, and I could not do this segment without bringing in my good friend, Jen B, the Show of the Land host right here on IE Sports Radio. Jen, how the heck are you?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing good, Nice hat, by the way. Good to see we're representing tonight. I love that.
I stole it. I stole it back from my husband, who stole it from me.
Nice. Oh man. You know, we had commented about this or talked about this for I think a few weeks ago. We were on Larry's show talking about how this could very well be a possibility. And here we are.
Yes.
Game 1 Sunday in Cleveland. But Jen, before we get to hoops, I have to ask you this one question real quick. How are you feeling about your quarterback room in the Cleveland Browns?
Cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I think we're in a similar boat here in Indy, right? Like,
yeah. I mean,
I'm hoping,
hopefully one of them will work.
Right? One of your, how many you have now? Like 5?
If you count Deshaun Watson, I don't. So 4.
Well, no one should. So it's fair. No one should absolutely. He should never be counted ever. But anyway, I digress. All right, so let's get into some hoops. Obviously, the Cavaliers have had one heck of a season, had a crazy good start to the year, and really didn't fall off too much really after that crazy good start. So I have found that some of the people here that I talk to don't know a ton about this team, other than they won a crap ton of games. So what has happened with this team to take them from this where they were last year, which they were a solid team last year as well, to make this big jump to where they're a championship favorite?
Well, a big part of it is Ty Jerome. He was hurt all last season, so he did not play at all. And he's had a huge impact. They made a couple of great trades at the trade deadline to improve their bench. DeAndre Hunter was a huge upgrade from Karis LeVert and George Niang. And I think a lot of it comes down to coaching.
I would
Change
agree.
a coach, and it's a whole new team with the same players.
Coaching matters.
It does. It absolutely does. So I mean, you saw it. JB Bickerstaff still can't beat the Knicks. So, so yeah. I mean, Kenny Atkinson came in and just changed the whole attitude of the team. Like they all love JB Bickerstaff. He's a great players coach, but he didn't have that push that they needed. And he came in. He pulled Donovan aside and said, in order for this team to be the best team it can be, you need to take a step back and let the other guys shine. And, a lot of superstars in his position would have said, screw you, I'm the star. And Donovan Mitchell didn't. He listened, and he said in post-game interview after the sweep that he feels the best he's ever felt in his entire basketball career, because he was kept to 29 to 32 minutes every game. He's well rested. Towards the end of the season, when we had clinched, Kenny Atkinson rested guys except for Jared Allen because he wanted to hit that 82 game mark.
That was impressive. Add props to that.
Yes. Yeah, it's quite an accomplishment. I'm very proud of him. And and even with him, they rested him when they could. They made sure he started all 82 games like he wanted to. But after he was no longer needed, he was on the bench to get whatever rest he could. So Kenny Atkinson was great about resting the starters as much as possible. We had very few injuries, knocking on wood, throughout the season. And any injuries that did happen were minor, and they were able to sit out as long as they needed to get as close to 100% as they could. So they're going into the playoffs as strong as they could. Right now, Darius Garland is a question mark, but I mean, they wiped the floor with the Heat without him. So I'm not too concerned about that.
Yeah, I saw that report that he's could be questionable for game 1, and we'll get into this a little bit when we talk about the matchup and what have you. But it's admirable, because one of the things I'm worried about as a Pacers fan going into the series is your all's bench is good. Where in most series, even getting back to last year, I always felt Pacers had the advantage on the bench.
Right.
Now,
I think before Kenny Atkinson, a lot of teams had the advantage.
Yeah, and that's scary when you got a guy like Donovan Mitchell, feeling the best he's been in his career. That's the last thing as a Pacers fan I want to hear, because he's been torching us since his days in Utah. So, but you're right, because you could be like the Knicks, where you're running your guys out 40 minutes a night, and they're whooped, and they're probably about to get run out of town by Boston.
Yeah.
No. So it's funny because the Pacers, the Pacers kind of have I was looking up some stats earlier, and this is interesting to me. So the Pacers had a tough start to the season. A lot of it had to do with injuries. Our two backup big men were on the shelf for the season. So we had to go out and got Thomas Bryant, which was a popular pick here locally, IU kid, and he's done all right. He's done fine. But we had that was out two starters for a significant period of time, and Nembhard and Nesmith, which we'll get into that a little bit too, because I think that could be very interesting with Garland and Nembhard going forward, depending on Garland's status. We'll see. But between that, I just lost my train of thought here. It was just a tough battle for the Pacers, because having those guys out, Halliburton's playing through an injury with a back issue. I mean, he's played through it and trying to do too much. And this team was 10-15. And then the stats I pulled up here, a few I pulled up earlier, and then maybe a week or so prior, the last 50 games of the season for both teams, taking the Cavs and the Pacers, their records are virtually identical.
Yes.
I think Cavs have the advantage by like one game in that deal. So these guys have been playing essentially, played damn good basketball the last 50 games of the season. So I'm like, okay, I want to dive in a little bit deeper here. So I dove into some stats, and holy crap, their stats are almost dead even. I mean, it is as much. I mean, I don't want to say hype, because it's deserved. I mean, you guys have been playing great basketball all year, but I started looking at points per game. I saw Cleveland had, I think, a 4-point advantage, which is whatever, call that almost a tie. Field goal percentages are the same. Assists had a very slight advantage to Indiana. Rebounds was advantage to Cleveland. I mean, go down the list. I think blocks were pretty close. I mean, it was just like these teams are actually playing pretty even right now, just from a statistical point of view. So, which leads me to my next question for you is, what's your excitement level for this series? Just as a fan of hoops, and then
I'm
it's
excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this one. I was hoping that we would get the Pacers. I had a feeling that if the Bucks had won and that's who we were playing, it would be another series like the Miami series.
Yeah.
Because the Bucks didn't give us any trouble during the season. The Cavs and Pacers matchups during the season were pretty even. So, right. I mean, even the last game of the season where nobody played, it went to double overtime. So,
the game was so drunk.
Even the reserves are even.
Right.
So I like this series against Miami didn't even feel like a playoff series. And you shouldn't be beating the playoff team by 55 points. That's absurd.
That wasn't even fair.
It wasn't. I turned the game off. I was like, this isn't even fair. I can't watch this. I think it was Ty Jerome hit like a half-court shot at the buzzer at the end of the third quarter. I was like, my God. And you could tell he wasn't even trying. He just threw it up. He wasn't trying to hit it. He just threw it up because that's what you do at the buzzer. And it went in. And I was just like, oh, my God. I'm like, they can't miss. They just can't miss tonight. I was like, it's so bad.
Yeah, they should. But have been a mercy rule.
But yeah, I want to see a competitive series. The Cavs need, especially if they are going to advance and move on, they need a competitive series to prepare for what's to come.
Yeah, and I think so. And I think Pacers need to grow still, because here's my thing at this. And some disagree with me here locally, and it's cool. Going into this year, my hope for the Pacers, because again, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Nobody had that happening. Even here, we were like, let's just get to the playoffs and see what happens.
Yeah.
And not only they get there, things lined up for them, and they were too dumb to know any better, and they make the finals. And really, if they knew how to close games, that series would maybe went 6 or 7, because 3 of those games were close.
Right.
And now, so going into the season, I'm like, hey, that's all right. Let's improve on that. Maybe let's get a 4 seed instead of a 6. That way you can host a playoff series. And then after that, see where the chips may fall. And so we're just going to be, going into Cleveland. I want to get your opinion on this before we start talking like a little bit more matchup stuff. I feel like Cleveland is, and totally correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like the Celtics, their window's closing, right?
Right.
There's talk now that they're going to trade pieces at the offseason no matter what happens, if they win or whatever.
Yeah.
So their window to me is closing. I feel like Cleveland window has opened. They have entered I don't want to say the now phase where they have to win this year, but they're in this window now, like, okay, this is like championship conversation moving forward.
Yeah, probably for the next 4 to 5 years.
Right.
So everybody's under contract for the most part until 2031, I believe.
Yeah, so I couldn't remember the exact year, but I knew you guys were at least 3, if not 4, so a little bit longer. And that's great. But I felt like to me, you're entering window is now open. It's like the now phase where you're whatever frame that is, 3-5 years, whatever it is. I feel like the Pacers are probably still a year or 2 away from being in that to the spot where you guys are now.
Right.
The Pacers are still, to me, they're still missing a piece. They're missing. I've said this for a while. Like if you go back to the days of the '90s with the rivalries against Jordan and the Bulls, and then finally making it to the finals to play, just to see Shaq and Kobe, that was awesome. But they need like a Dale Davis guy down low who just does that dirty work and gets those rebounds, but still gives you that double every night. And that's where, to me, in this series, Cleveland's going to have an advantage. So the Pacers are going to have to figure that out if they stand a chance to pull off the upset here. So speaking of matchups here, who is a key from a Cleveland perspective, outside of Garland and Mitchell and Mobley, who was named Defensive Player of the Year, who is, and obviously the bench is always key, but who's a player or two that you think really needs to have a good series in order just to kind of put this thing to bed and make it to the finals?
DeAndre Hunter.
Yep, I thought you might say him.
Because Ty Jerome's going to do what Ty Jerome does, but DeAndre Hunter needs to step up and be that third big when Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are out on the floor. Well, one of them. Usually one of them is always on the floor, but when the other one's not, he needs to step up and do what they traded for him to do, to be that extra piece. Because Dean Wade is great. He can step in and do some things, but they need that Evan Mobley stand in when Evan Mobley's not on the court.
No, that's all awesome. That's my Pacers contributor George, who's giving you the nice boo, but also question optimistic. I'm sure you are. I think it's good. I think you're absolutely right from that perspective. I think for me, from a Pacers point of view, as a couple myself, Andrew Nebhart, who a lot of people don't know about outside of Indiana. I mean, everybody you think of the Pacers, you're thinking, all right, Halliburton, Siakam, Miles Turner. Those are typically the guys that people think of. Nemby was a second-round pick out of Gonzaga and just found his way to a starting lineup. And he has so far, we'll see, because this season I felt he's a little bit up and down at times, but he is also a very solid defender. Am I saying he should have won Defensive Player of the Year? Absolutely not. I'm not going that level. But I do think, and this will be key in my mind, I think, I've said this whole time, I think the Pacers can give Cleveland fits. If he's given Garland fits, which I think he could, or I think he can, that's going to be an eye-opener for me. Because that's where I think if the Pacers can pull off some magic here, it's going to be with guard play in my eyes. So I'm really intrigued with that. And, you have your sixth man Ty Jerome. We have our sixth man Benedict Mathurin, who was out for the playoffs last year. Now, he did not look good in that last game against Milwaukee. He was on the struggle bus. He is the type of guy that sometimes he gets a little bit too ISO and it drives people crazy. And sometimes defensively he'll miss an assignment. But when he's on, he's a guy who can find a way to get to the basket and get to the line. So for me, those will be some interesting matchups. Obviously, to me, whoever wins those matchups is going to take the series.
Yeah.
So being we're up on the hour mark already, so I got to ask. I know who your pick's going to be. So Cavs in how many?
My heart says 5. I would not be.
Oh my God!
I know, but I mean the Cavs are coming off of a massive upswing after that crazy, ridiculous win in Miami, and they're well rested and they're ready to go. But like my first thought when I heard we were playing the Pacers, the first thing that came to my head was Cavs in 5. However, given how these two teams have matched up, nothing would surprise me. So I wouldn't be surprised if it went to 6 or 7. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a sweep. Nothing would surprise me one way or the other. Either way, no matter who wins, I can see it going anyway.
Oh, put that back up here. I love what you chimed in that about Nebby should have been if he'd have played enough. That's probably true. Nebby was hurt earlier in the year, so he's not wrong in that assessment. So that's will be an interesting matchup to me. With that, I'm really intrigued to see that for sure. I mean, because Garland's been a hell of a player this year.
He's been breaking ankles.
Yeah, he has. To his credit, look, I'll say this. Like, obviously, I'm hopeful for the upset. Cavs are the favorite. They should be. I saw the early line for game 1 is like a 7.5 for the Cavs. Pacers.
Oh wow! I didn't expect it to be that big.
I'm not surprised. I think part of it is the way you just absolutely dominated Miami. I mean, that was just an absolute.
Plus, it's in Cleveland, so that gives us
home
gives us 3 points right there.
You got the Control Your Dad T-shirts going, even though he's not going to be there, but that's okay. Look, I love the humor. I love it. There'll be some good bickering. I think the Pacers could pull this off and pull off the upset? I do think they could. Do I think would I bet money that they're going to? I would not. I'm a homer, but I'm also a realist. I'll say probably if I'm putting money on this, I'd probably say 6. That it goes 6. Just because I think both are playing pretty damn good basketball. It's just, to your point though, Jen, it's going to come down to who executes, really. I think both teams are solid.
Exactly.
Who's making the shots when they need to make the shots? Who's coming up with the defensive stop? To me, that's where it's just comes down to execution. I'm with you. I can see this thing going almost any way. I don't think anything. The only thing that would shock me is what you did to Miami. If that happened again, that would be the only shock, I think, where you were just beating us by 30 points every night.
Right. I could see a sweep, and a sweep wouldn't surprise me, but it's going to be 4 close games that come down to the last second or possibly even overtime. It's not going to be blowout wins like we did against Miami. But the other part of this is the way the series went during the regular season. Both teams lost at home. So if that's how it goes, then the Pacers win in 7.
Yeah, right. I think honestly, with probably not going to go that way. Pacers, obviously, to me, if they want a shot, they got to get 1 in Cleveland, and especially if Garland. I think he plays, but if he doesn't for whatever reason in game 1, to me as a Pacers fan, I'd be like, all right, you got to find a way to get that one. That's one you take advantage of that situation. You got to get it. To me, they got to get 1 of those. And then, we'll see what happens. I mean, if Cleveland takes the first 2, then nothing's impossible, but it's going to be hard to beat a team 4 out of 5 times. It just is.
Right.
Especially as competitive as these two teams are.
And Cleveland has never lost when they've been up 3-0. I learned this when we went up 3-0 on Miami. I didn't know that fact. But they were talking about it after they went up 3-0 on Miami. They have never lost a series after going up 3-0. So if they manage to get the first three, I think Cleveland wins. Maybe not in 4, but in 5 or 6 at least. But yeah, I really could see this being a very close series and coming down to the buzzer every game.
Yeah, I could too. I mean, I really could too. Pacers get to play a little bit more free, in my opinion, because they're the underdog, and they're still like not quite in that window. But we'll see how it shakes out. So, last question before I let you run. I think, and we'll see, because we don't know what's going to happen with Milwaukee yet. All these signs are pointing to Giannis, maybe going a different direction. That's the case. That Lillard's probably gone too, and that puts Milwaukee in a really tough spot. Obviously, we see what Detroit's doing; they're improving, whatever. Could you see this? And we'll see. We'll see how the series goes. Could you see this being like the next big rivalry in the coming years?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I absolutely could. I think both teams are in very similar spots. Like you said, Cleveland's a little bit further along, but
right.
Of the teams in the East, they're the closest to each other, I think, in that window area. I think Detroit's probably a couple years behind the Pacers. The Pacers are a year, maybe 2 behind the Cavs. And then, like, the Knicks are just the Knicks. And I just don't see them. I mean, they're going to be competitive every year, but are they going to be a contender? That I don't know. Unless something changes over there, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
And Boston's going to be rebuilding. So
I'm with you on the Knicks. I mean, they got obviously some good talent there, but I mean, he just runs those guys into the ground. And that's why the Pacers beat them last year. I mean, I know they had some injuries, but Pacers by the end of it, they had the fresh legs and they just ran them out of the garden.
Right.
So, well, first, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join. You can all follow her at the Show of the Land and 11 o'clock on Sundays. Am I right?
Yes.
Yep. Thought so. And I think I'm going to be joining her on Sunday as well to chat more about this, what I hope is a great, great fun series for. I mean, I'm not trying to say like I hope both teams have fun. I'm not going down that road, but I do think it could be a lot of fun. I really it could be a lot of fun.
Yes, it definitely could, and it could. It could definitely stress us out like crazy.
I'm sure it could. Although I got one last thing I say to you. Some of your fans though on the social media, they got trash talk a little better. We got to work on some of your fans trash talk because. There's more holes in in their trash talk than there are potholes in Indianapolis.
They've used all their trash on Deshaun Watson. They're all out.
They're fresh out. Like, all right, we that's all right. Well, we'll help you out because if you end up winning the series and y'all come over to visit us here in Indy, to watch here in Indy, you're all going to get flat tires going back. So you could probably trash talk us for that with all, Anyway, that's another story for another day. So, Jen, thank you so much for joining. I'll everybody check her stuff out. She has a great show on Sunday and then co-host of the Extra Mile too, right?
Yes.
Yep. So that's our racing show on the network. So check her out on those shows. And Jen, I will have yourself a wonderful Friday night. I'll see you on Sunday.
All right, sounds good. Bye.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Thank you to Jen so much for joining me tonight. Good, fun conversation. One last programming note before I bid you adieu. Next Friday, as you know, I'm on my 5 o'clock time slot usually. Change things up a little bit. Got a work trip that came up. So we're going to go live on Friday, 7 p.m., which should be pretty close to around tip time of Game 3. So we'll probably have a little fun on that show, have the game going, talk about what we're seeing and not seeing. And hopefully I'm not cursing too much on my Pacers, but that's neither here nor there. So on that note, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, whether it was live or on the replay. Thank you so very much. Enjoy the games this weekend. Have yourself a great weekend. Go Pacers. Go Pacers. Go Pacers. Big Mike signing off here. Indy Sports Nation right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great weekend, everybody.